With me now to unpack all of this is freshman Democrat Congressman Robert Garcia of California. He's a member of the House Homeland Security and Oversight Committees. Good morning, Congressman. Thank you for being here. Always great to talk to you. I want to start with Project 2025. Donald Trump, once again, he's trying to create some distance between himself and the actual plan. In his rally last night, does that signal to you that he knows that this is perhaps unpopular?
Yeah, I think he probably does know that. But I think we should be very, very clear. Donald Trump, his former administration officials, his top advisors are the architects of Project 2025. And he's out there at rallies saying, I've never heard of Project 2025. I don't know what it is. I mean, that is total BS. We know that essentially Donald Trump's top lieutenants have drafted this manifesto, and that's exactly what it is, of the most extreme radical ideas they've all been dreaming about for the last few decades, to roll back essentially every single right and every step of progress that we have made in the last 50 years will be destroyed and moved back through Project 2025. And so Donald Trump is their avatar of this document. He's the person that is going to be put, in their view, into office again to execute. And so this is not just concerning, as you just said, for immigrants, but for women, for working people, for anyone that actually believes in progress. We've got to talk about Project 2025 every single day between now and the election.
But Congressman, I think part of what you just said is part of the issue that at least I and some others have with it. Every day between now and the election suggests that a Donald Trump loss is the death of Project 2025. And I don't understand why we are not approaching this in the sense that this is the Republican playbook for the next 50 years. So why isn't that the broader focus of people on the left and Democrats who are trying to stop what Project 2025 is intended to do?
Well, I think it's both those things, but I think we have to be very honest. If Donald Trump wins the presidency, I mean, that is the way they're going to force Project 2025 on the American people. They could care less who's in Congress, if Democrats are able to flip the House or have the Senate. Through executive action, the presidency and the courts, they are going to try to implement Project 2025. And so you're absolutely right, where this obviously manifesto won't end with Donald Trump's defeat, but there is no question that they'll be able to implement large portions of this document if Donald Trump is elected. And so I think job number one is we have to defeat Donald Trump, flip the House, and remind voters that we've got to fight all these dark groups, these dark money groups that are involved, all these far-right extreme groups that are involved in this document, including Trump's top lieutenants, and continue to harp every single day, you're right, election and beyond, to stop these ideas.
I understand the notion of fighting these groups, and I think that that's important. And it's important that our viewers understand that this is coming from a groundswell on the right. But when are Democrats going to go on the offensive? When are Democrats going to put forward their own Project 2025, whether it's Project Left, Move On Left, whatever it is, that gives the American people an opportunity to vote for something as opposed to talking endlessly about Project 2025? I hear more about that from Democrats than I do about something affirmative. When does that happen?
Well, I think we're all, and certainly I'm advocating that we've got to now come together and focus on the stakes of the election and what actually progress means. And I think it starts with looking at the president's 100-day agenda for a second term. And that's issues that matter to the American people. You're talking about codifying workers' rights, supporting national access to abortion. He's also talking about eliminating things, not just like student debt, but also medical debt. He's talking about putting a national cap to assist people with rents and ensuring that people and tenants have actual rights. He's talking about improving the way cities even operate around zoning issues. There are a lot of ideas that are being put forward by the president that focuses on issues around climate, around infrastructure, around canceling student debt, around access to education that we absolutely should be talking about. That is the agenda for Democrats over the course of these next years. And we have to spend way more time. We have to put our focus on defeating Donald Trump and promoting the president's 100-day agenda.
California Congressman Robert Garcia, Always good to talk to you, my friend. Thank you for your time and your work.